No longer a spending frenzy at the top, many teams can now take more chances, and this year they did. But with every good pick must come a bad one. For every lock, there must be a reach. Day 3 of the draft in New York brought about confusion in the nation's capital. Why would the Skins draft a quarterback when RG3 was already their guy? Just one topic of the day. Chris Mortensen and Adam Schefter with a recap from Radio City.
All right, Mort, it's so hard to appoint winners and losers because we really don't know who won and lost until we get to training camp and get into the season. But there are teams that seem to get their way throughout the course of this draft. And I think when we look at it, we start out in the NFC East. The Washington Redskins trade up to number 2. The Dallas Cowboys trade up for Morris Claiborne. But the Philadelphia Eagles may have just had the best draft of any team in the NFC East. They go up and get Fletcher Cox, who might be the best defensive lineman in this draft. He's going to help the inside pass rush. He's exactly what the Eagles love. They come back in the second round, and they get Michael Kendricks, another linebacker that's going to fortify a defense that got singed far too often last season. And then they come up with another pass rusher, Vinny Curry, who's from Jersey, who grew up as an Eagles fan. The Eagles fans are going to love him, but not as much as he's going to love playing in Philadelphia.
I think the state of Pennsylvania did well. The Steelers made a lot of sense. I like what the Lions did in Detroit. You know, I look down at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the new coach of Greg Schiano. You look what they did with this draft, and they get Mark Barron, a safety he coveted, but they also got Doug Martin, the running back from Boise State, who reminds scouts of who? Ray Rice from Rutgers, where Greg Schiano came from. And then you look at what they did in the offseason with free agency, whether it was Vincent Jackson, Carl Nix, Eric Wright, the secondary that they just to get and Josh Freeman jump-started and get him some help on defense. I think they accomplished it. And you look at the 49ers, they kept their defense together in this offseason, and in this draft, they added a couple guys in speed. A.J. Jenkins, Illinois wide receiver, LaMichael James, Oregon, and you think, you know, the Randy Moss and what have you, see how that works out. But basically, Jim Harbaugh and Trent Baalke, their general manager, is saying is, we're not just going to beat you with defense. We're going to beat you with our offense vertically, and we're going to pound you, and we're going to trick it up a little bit. Good luck beating the 49ers.
And they're offensively and defensively strong. And another team that had a strong offensive and defensive draft was the Cincinnati Bengals. It used to be that people mocked the Bengals. Now they're laughing a little bit at the rest of the league because you look at what they did by turning the Carson Palmer trade into a couple of added picks. They started out basically going with a defensive player, Dre Kirkpatrick from Alabama. They then went offense. They alternated offense, defense throughout the remainder of the draft and fortified the entire roster. The Cincinnati Bengals have positioned themselves to compete with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens for an awful long time.
Last thought, by the way, the Patriots and the Packers both showed us that they still care about defense.
Yes, they did. They were the worst-ranked defenses in the league last season, and both went to work drafting defensive players.
All right, guys, now let's take a look at some of today's notable picks. Miami running back Lamar Miller, he stays in the area with the Dolphins. The Redskins, as we mentioned, grab another quarterback, Kirk Cousins from Michigan State. Ole Miss tackle Bobby Massey falls to the Cardinals in the 4th round. Al Toon's son, Nick, he goes to the Saints. And the Steelers grab Florida running back Chris Rainey.